Well, you're muted. I kind of love. There's part of me that really loves power.
No, there's not part of you, Kate, that loves the power. There's you that loves the power. Hey, look who I have here.
We're gonna make it.
Oh, wait, full screen now. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. Hello, we're broadcasting love here today at In Lieu of Fun. We're broadcasting love.
Are we disclosing the... I said online on Twitter that we were going to be live from the Bulwark studio, and it turns out that was incorrect.
That was incorrect. We're not. We're live from Sarah Longwell's office, which is where I was having a secret Bulwark meeting. There's a separate Bulwark studio across the street, but no one is there. So I've needed a key, and I don't know, the lights work, and, you know, I have my West Coast Bulwark office, which is my bedroom in Oakland, and so I don't, you know, kind of know how to work it. So we're here at Sarah Longwell's office instead, and she's a little under the weather, so she's not going to join us, sadly.
Yeah, we caught sight of Bill Crystal, though.
There is a real Crystal sighting out there, and he declined.
He declined. We invited
partially,
him, and he was like, "No."
Yeah.
He's like, "You might rope me into the French Village podcast." All right.
I don't really want to know. Basically, what the Bill Crystals and like all of these like lionized figures that I respect from like the pages of the Atlantic think about the craziness it is that we do on In Lieu of Fun. Like he came on, I have it crystallized in his mind, him and his bookcase, and he approves. And you don't disabuse me of that.
All right. Should we go live? All right, we're waiting for, we've got to see whether the Longwell Partners internet can deliver the blue Go Live button in a timely fashion.
I thought we were already live.
No, we're live locally on Crowdcast, but we're not on YouTube yet. There it is. Click. Do you want to do and we're live?
And we're live!
It is Monday. Yeah. What the hell's the date? October 25th, 2021, 5:01 p.m., and we are here in person, at least the Washington side of In Lieu of Fun is here in person with a brand new dog shirt and a Tim Miller.
And also shirt. We're broadcasting love.
Broadcasting love.
Broadcast love.
From Sarah Longwell's office, but without Sarah Longwell, because we've taken over her office. And for those of you who've been inquiring about it, the half of the shipment of dog shirts has arrived. Genevieve's amazing new dog shirt has not arrived. A wonderful bottle of bourbon came with me to drink out of paper cups from the corner bakery. Yeah, it's good to do shit in person, Tim. It's good to see your actual face.
Nice. It is so nice. Here we go. Cheers. Cheers to everybody. Happy to be here in Washington for 36 hours, as long as I can handle you people.
Yeah.
So move us back to normal size so that you guys can be on screen. We can lean in.
I want to see Kate. Yeah, I want to see Kate. Hello, Kate.
I didn't mean.
I like your tongue.
I didn't mean to stick out my tongue. I don't know what we're gonna talk. Yeah, I actually was reminded. I hung out with one of my friends from high school a couple weeks ago, and he took a picture. He was like, "Let's take a picture," and I was like, "Ah." He was like, "You literally," and then he pulled up a bunch of pictures from high school in which I make that exact same face my entire life. Apparently, I've never taken a respectable picture. So,
I always do this when people at me, and I have pictures of myself from a very young age doing what Tammy and I call bass face. Yeah.
Genevieve, I see you as the duck lips. Are you a duck lip photo taker?
I did go through a phase. It was a very, very regrettable phase, but there's a series of photos where it's just constant
the eyebrows.
It was just.
But I think that for today,
before we speak, we should all have to go.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Actually, it's useful because it'll let Kate know when to unmute us. Yeah, if you want to speak, just go.
that seems like a terrible thing to do. And not okay, Genevieve, go ahead. What are we going to talk about today, guys? Tim, why are you on this cross-country tour? You hung out with Eric in Idaho, and now you're in DC. Tell us.
Hey, Eric. I should be wearing my Ada County Democrat shirt, which he kindly delivered to me at a playground while I was extremely hungover in Boise. But this has been long planned on In Lieu of Fun. I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe my very first In Lieu of Fun, Eric asked a question. Maybe second. And we've long planned this. I try to go to Boise once a year with the pandemic, so we hung out in the park. It was nice. He was shorter than I thought. So was Ben, by the way. The pandemic
I'm shorter really, than everyone thinks.
It really tricks you when you're just on Zoom. But other than that, because Eric has this kind of Viking vibe, and I was kind of expecting like a Viking man, but he was sort of like a mini Viking man. Handsome, still handsome and charming, but not Viking-ish. And then, so that was for a concert, and I'm here in Washington for a Secretive Bulwark Summit, which I just announced to everybody, just kind of discussing bulwarky things. And, that's it.
What is a Secretive Bulwarky Summit? Do you get together and discuss how to fortify things?
No, we just have kind of like we put up some candles below visages of like George H.W. Bush and like Liz Cheney. And, we do some prayers and some kind of positive affirmations. So there's that. And then, look, we're in office. Everybody's got their own opinions. What should the Bulwark do? People want Tim to do a podcast. Everybody's got an opinion about that. So I had to hear.
What would a Tim podcast be called?
I don't know.
Maybe we should talk about that as get the In Lieu of Fun audience suggestions for titles for a Tim podcast.
Sure, I'll gladly take suggestions. The problem is I'm more concerned about what the topics are.
No. You got to start with a title.
And work back from there.
Oh yeah.
No, that's incorrect. I'm sorry. I'm exercising my. Do not work back from a title. I know, but no. Wait, what are you going to like? So we could start from a title. Well. First, maybe that is our first poll question. Work back from a title or start with an ideas premise. We'll put that up, see what people think. And then next steps.
Yeah, next steps. So what's big? I just wanted to let you know I've gotten a lot of bad ideas already, so don't get your feelings hurt if I reject your idea. You will not be alone. You'll be in good company. So, just little stuff like that, and it's all part of the brainstorming process. So, we lament the state of things and
I think the Bulwark should acquire In Lieu of Fun, and lots of Bulwark people should host it, and you guys should sell a lot of advertising.
What are you going to do?
Oh, we're going to scale back our involvement to 2 or 3 times a week rather than 5 or 6.
The Bulwark should pay you to do nothing.
Oh no, we didn't say anything about paying
me. That sounds like
a
great idea.
I just think we're just looking for people to do the work.
Free. Okay, well I'll throw that into the kitty at the next evening session. So that's good. I don't know. And that's what's happening here, Kate. Well, you're in charge. I thought you had some topics for me, some controversial items for me to discuss and give my wrong views on.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm still trying to kind of it's like cognitive dissonance to hit mute on you guys when I'm about to talk. It is just very weird. So it's kind of just taking me a second. But I would like to know I have not been following the politics lately because I've been immersed in Facebook file stuff and Facebook paper stuff and the Frances Haugen stuff and all of that. You ready to talk? Go ahead, Tim.
I have Facebook thoughts if you want to do that. That's okay.
I was thinking that. That's what I was going to ask. I'm on Joy Reid tonight.
You're on Joy Reid tonight talking about Facebook. That'll be. Here's just a quick tip for warning. I love Joy Reid's show. I think Joy Reid's very charming, and we've gotten along famously, despite the fact that our politics are not always aligned. Joy, though, takes some liberties, and she puts you on the screen with her. And so, Joy's out there just, vamping about stuff. And, sometimes it's yes, girl, go. And other times it's whoa, what are you talking about right now? But you're on the screen the whole time. So just this little media training tip for Joy Reid Show is just kind of get your RBF ready. Just kind of standard. Because what you don't want is on Twitter. Like, I got yelled at on Twitter the other day because I was laughing.
Tim Miller stands by while Joy Reid.
Exactly. Like, Tim Miller laughing while Joy Reid says some crazy thing. And I was like, I was thinking about what I was going to say next. I don't know. So that's my little tip for Joy Reid. As far as Facebook is concerned, I have a mixed view on the Facebook situation because they obviously don't really care about societal health, but is this really breaking news? Is this breaking news that they don't care about it? I just don't know. I feel like a lot of this news is kind of duh news that people are very upset about, and I think that they are in a very tough situation where they are probably a net negative drag on society, but that's true for a lot of businesses, and they take a lot of heat for it. And they don't know whether just to go the oil company route of we're just going to own this, or whether they kind of appeal to their more the staff that kind of hates them, kind of seems and appeal to them, and I think that that they're kind of stuck in this mushy middle that has them in a really tough straits, and I just have to say, I don't hate watching their pain because they are in a lot of pain right now, and they are not doing a really great job of getting themselves out of pain. They're just complaining about it, and I don't really think it's that fair because I think that YouTube is just as bad, if not worse, than them. And, none of these guys are angels. Apple has, slave labor in China and all that stuff. So, all of these guys have their problems, but Facebook takes all the heat. And so, I have extremely mixed views on all of that.
So if you guys are not members of Bulwark Plus, and you have therefore not heard the ongoing slugfest on the Secret podcast and on the Next Level podcast about whether Facebook should be ground up into a fine dust and sprinkled over the Rocky Mountains, or whether it should merely be treated like any other hateful company. This is worth the entire price to watch JVL and everybody gang up on JVL on this. It's been great fun.
Yeah, JVL. This is get rid of all Facebook. It's horrible, and it's
kill all their employees. Put them in concentration
fire
camps.
them into the sun, and it's kind of every once in a while he's got a point. I mean, Facebook isn't great, I don't think, but at the same time, I think there are better ways to deal with this. And I often think that there is, I don't know, Kate, I think this is where you and I are aligned. I'm interested in your take on this. I feel like the criticisms of them are almost always misaligned from the actual things that they should be criticized for. And for example, the obsession over the over the antitrust stuff, which is maybe true for their WhatsApp purchase, but it's not for the Facebook and themselves. They're a million competitors to them. Trump just started a new competitor. New competitors sprouting up every day. TikTok just came out of nowhere and is going to dominate them pretty soon. It's that is a weird one, but nobody ever talks about and there's, I guess, not nobody ever, but rarely do people talk about news feed. The biggest way to criticize them is newsfeed, which they should actually have to take responsibility for, which they don't, right? They let the algorithm take responsibility for newsfeed, and I think a fair criticism of Facebook is well, if you're going to have a newsfeed, then you should have to be more responsible about how to manage it. If you wanted to just do reverse chronology, like you did 10 years ago, I'd be okay with that probably. This is where JVL would be no, that still is horrible, kill Facebook. But reverse chronology would have its own problems, but at least then it would be people doing their own thing. Or if people had to actually type in facebook.com/Dan Bongino, I'm fine with that. But putting Dan Bongino into unsuspecting Rubes' face is where I think that there's fair criticism of them. And I feel like they have these hearings and they'll go 8 hours and nobody will even mention newsfeed. They complain about all this other stuff. What do you think?
Okay. So I really am sad that we have to keep muting you guys because of the echo. But because it like kind of takes away from like the give and take of this and you heckling me, which I know you're absolutely going to do, but you can just like make faces or something. First of all, like, I really dislike the JVL take. I have never listened to JVL except, or like really have never figured out what JVL even stands for, except that I know that he's come after like stands for like the letters stand for, like he's this imaginary person that has come after Ben. And as Ben's friend, I'm very concerned. He's come after Ben because he's jealous that you're friends with Sarah Longwell. And he like really Okay.
Wait,
Yeah.
That's fake.
Wait, that's fake. It's a joke.
I know,
JVL and I are buds.
That was my joke. I was joking.
Oh, okay. As long as you know it's a joke.
Yeah, you've ruined it.
JVL and I are. I've known JVL longer than I've known Sarah. I am very attached to JVL, and I think it is very funny and fun that he plays the left-wing radical in the Bulwark crowd. I love that shit.
I'm getting ready. I'm grading your takes on the fly since we can't have a give and take.
It's the New York Times needle.
Right.
Okay, so no, I think that you're exactly right. I think Facebook gets blamed for too much. I think that like there is no future in which Facebook is ground into dust. It will either organically kind of disappear into the ether because of TikTok and other things happening, or it's going to like whatever. The idea, I see a lot of smart people bandying around the idea of monopoly, and for a long time I was like, everyone must be smarter than me, and then I like spent 6 months digging into antitrust and monopoly and was like, no, there's no monopoly here. Like this is actually not definitionally monopoly. Even if you reformed the entire idea of monopoly, it would not be monopoly. Like I'm like feeling pretty confident in that. But basically like the general take, so there's this one line that I think was really good that says that basically that they knew everything that was happening with the Stop the Steal stuff, but there was no indication, and this is like in the post, this is in the leaks of the Facebook papers, there was no indication that they were violent or actually going to mobilize into something violent. It was actually, they were dealing with it as individual groups and individual speech. Could you have put on your like magic, like, well, this group is acting a lot like white supremacy or Proud Boys groups or like other types of groups before they started radicalizing into violent speech or types of things like that? Like, absolutely. But they were kind of caught in the middle of this, like, do we really heavily weigh into like the democratic discourse of a bunch of people who seem to legitimately think, no, really? You're not liking this take? What would you do differently? Would you literally just like ban people that disagree with you? Is that like what you would do? Okay, I like that you're panting like dogs that answers that question. It's like perfect for my visual.
I mean, or to ban the groups. Look, Facebook can do what they want. I think from a PR standpoint, they'd probably be better off just putting on the Darth Vader hat and being like, "We're for free speech, fuck you guys," and like instead of trying to this is my like PR criticism hat. Like they're doing too much to try. Like they're never going to be loved by the people they're trying to be loved by in their social circles. They need to come to terms with that. I don't think that this is where squishy middle ground Tim comes up. Do nothing is not the answer, right? Like. They need to do something, and the something that they need to do is stop letting the algorithm recommend and deliver like harmful bullshit to people that don't know that it's coming. Like if somebody wants to go to facebook.com and write into the search bar, "Stop the Steal," and then find a group and click on it and join it, and then be in that group, and then go back to Facebook periodically, like I do for Tiger.
You shouldn't get it from searching the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right, like when I go every day I go
Stop the Steal.
Yes, every day I go to tigerdroppings.com to read about who LSU is going to hire for their next coach since we fired Coach O. I don't get it like delivered to me in my phone. I type into the little internet bar, tigerdroppings.com, and I go to my little community of freak shows who are mostly all for Donald Trump because it's LSU, but we just have a nice little community where we talk about which coaches we want. Okay, it's like that is a healthy group that we've created. That's relationship. Facebook says, "Ooh, do you also like Tim Scott? Maybe you might like this group about overthrowing the government." Like that, they need to stop with that shit. And that is true on the recommendations, and it's true on the news feed, where it's like where one of your friends likes a post, and now it's anyway.
Wait, I want to split the difference here because I think Kate is onto something important, and I also agree with Tim. So the point that Kate is onto is that people in retrospect are expecting Facebook to have been the FBI. That is, to have had all points, all source intelligence, not merely what was going on their platform, but what Steve Bannon was saying on his fucking podcast and, what was going on Twitter and Parler. And they're really asking for, a kind of intelligence operation that is far beyond policing their own platform. Yeah. That said, anybody who says they didn't know that violence was a significant possibility on January 6th, and I say this as somebody who we talked about on January 5th what was going to happen tomorrow on this show.
So was the guest?
The guest was Steve Vladeck. And we kind of all agreed that there were people who were going to try to storm the Capitol, and we also mostly all agreed that the Capitol Police were going to actually show they didn't know what they were up against with the Capitol Police. So we were kind of half right.
Yeah, right.
But the point is, for Facebook to say, "Oh, well, we just thought this was noise," that's very silly of them. That said, I don't think you want Facebook running a general intelligence operation with a kind of futurism. And so I think they are in a very hard position. But you're also right that they're creating the hard position that they're in because, you go to Tiger droppings and you end up with, do you also want to overthrow the government?
So I think that's exactly. So first of all, I want to get into the distinction between when people say algorithm that they generally are talking about newsfeed, Tim, and they're lumping it in with the recommendations for groups and for other types of things. So we'll get to that in 1 second. And the things that they recommend up to you versus the things that you're versus the things that you're just automatically served. 2, you can go and I actually got a message, someone corrected me on this. I said the other day that you can switch, you can absolutely switch how you view Facebook, the newsfeed. They call Facebook the newsfeed Facebook Blue. I will say that how you're talking about URLs and typing into URLs is not how the majority of people get their use social media anymore. Most people use social media on apps on their phone. They're not even using it on browsers necessarily on computers. There's so this is this gets into this is part of the problem is you can't have these stickiness fixes of creating some friction just by making you manually type something in. It's kind of like shadow banning. You basically delete it by not making, people are not going to type it in. The other thing to Ben's, which maybe not bad, I know, but to Ben's point, I think that's exactly right. I think that this is a little bit Monday morning quarterbacking to bring in the pooper scoopers or whatever it is that you said. Sorry, the lion poop. What was it? Anyway, I know. But basically that I think that there is kind of this, we think that they didn't know things. They could have predicted more. We don't want, why are we looking for Facebook to be banning entire group? Even if they had banned and all of this had happened, who would we be blaming instead of Facebook? I would actually love to know that. Are we actually mentioning this to place the blame for all of January 6th on Facebook? Because that is completely insane. And okay. Genevieve. Or were you just making faces at Tim?
No.
Okay.
I have two things. So first of all, it's oddly a bipartisan thing that you can get them both to agree to blame Facebook, which I think is key here. And then secondly, we also have when you guys raised the question of whether or not Facebook would be like acting like the FBI, now retrospectively that totally makes sense to me, but prospectively with their wearables, are we even going to have that choice now, and are they going to have that choice if they collect that data? I'm thinking about the glasses and things like that.
I mean, Ben, what do you want to say? I mean, like, I think that those are all great. That those are all great points, and I think that, like, basically, what I think is, like, even in the idea that, like, no offense, Tim, that, like, Tim is kind of running into this thing of, like, let's blame newsfeed. No one talks about newsfeed. Well, actually, I think Tim doesn't like when I disagree with him. Shocker. That there's, like, basically, like, that there is this kind of idea that newsfeed is different than recommendations. Newsfeed is recommendations. It is recommendations from people you already follow, or groups that you already follow, or people that are already exist, or it is recommendations to join things that you don't already follow or already do. And so, like, those are, like, both things that happen with, like, newsfeed and with recommendations. And, like, I think both of those are problematic. I also just don't think they're not run off of the actual development of the content. They're run off the behavior of the content, which is content neutral. So what I mean is when something is going viral, or who is sharing it, where it's being shared from, they can determine this is acting more like spam or a viral marketing campaign, or like mis or disinformation. Now there's starting to be that type of fundamental, but, like, things that act similar to that from a content perspective are also puppy photos and beast of the day and, like, everything else. And so okay, you're just doing that. Okay. But no, go ahead.
I get it. Puppy photos. Look, here's the problem, though. You can't. Here's the problem with the Facebook position on this is you cannot say that I'm not held responsible for newsfeed, and then also pump things into people's newsfeed based on algorithms. I know that sucks for that. It's like, okay, but that's what I'm saying. These two things don't go together. I would say that Facebook's position would be unimpeachable if everybody was delivered a timeline, chronological feed that people had to opt into. Because then it's like, whatever, people want this stuff on our platform. Like, what are we supposed to do? But once they've made the decision that we have a news feed that we are sending things to you because we think that you like it, now they are responsible for sending those things to people. And so they are going to be criticized for it. I'm sorry. Now, like, the ridiculous resistance moms and dads who, like, think that Facebook is to blame for January 6th, I agree with you. That's insane. That's insane. Donald Trump is to blame for it. Steve Bannon is to blame for it. Mo Books is to blame for it. Like Facebook maybe made it this much worse. They certainly didn't make it better. They don't get any pats on the back. But I agree with you. Like, that's an insane position. But, like, they still need to be able to be big boys and girls and take their criticism when they decide to do what they want to do in the newsfeed. Now if they have an alternate option, which is to get less engagement and to have people spend less time on the platform by having a more curated platform that they choose, or by having a platform that is curated by people's own choices. That is an option. They don't want to do that because they want to maximize the amount of eyeballs and clicks that they get, and so now they get the criticism that is associated with that.
So I just want to add to this that I have, and this is going to be a little bit of love for Facebook, because I, instead of clicking, something that might plausibly be revolutionary in character, and therefore would you also stop the steal and overthrow, hang Mike Pence. I started doing the Beast of the Day, and so I get more capybara images than you could possibly imagine, lizard images. Hundreds and hundreds of cool spider videos, which I don't use for Beast of the Day because people really freak out when you post a picture of a spider. But, like, fish. I have the most blissful Facebook feed, and so all my recommendation to everybody who wants a lovely Facebook experience is start a hashtag with cool animals, because whatever you're interested in, you will go down that rabbit hole far.
Do you think that would work for babies, too?
Yes.
I'm more of a baby than an animal person myself.
If you start looking for baby videos, you will go down... Yeah. Whatever rabbit hole you go down, you will
I'm not gonna share with the group because we're on a public stream what my TikTok algorithm is feeding me. But let me just say it is not as uplifting and wholesome as the animal videos that Ben is getting.
But like, hold on. So I actually like this. I really kind of love. I think that there is a mix, and this is never a popular thing to tell people, but I think there's a mix of personal responsibility and like that's missing from like this entire fucking conversation that I'm real sick of kind of like just kind of I don't and this kind of started with like the Instagram like kind of well like we have had like studies that have said that like these types of like social media engagements for teenage girls is terrible for like years and decades before like Frances Haugen leaked this stuff. Like none of you gave a shit about it then. Like Ted Cruz, like taking away abortion rights of young women, but like being so concerned about like the fact that they might like start throwing up or something. Like I just like get so angry about this. Like I'm just kind of like sorry, but like this is actually something that I feel very strongly about, and which is just like I can't stand like not just hypocrisy, but like the mind-bending self-service of hypocrisy, like in which you are willing to twist time and space to look like some type of righteous person in order to like serve your ends. And I just like that is what I feel. And to Genevieve's point about the left and the right beating up big tech, and I really would love to hear your thoughts on this, Tim. There is no motivation under the sun that is going to get either side to come together on big tech reform, because right now it has been a completely lucrative punching bag for them. Every time they talk about it and they fundraise on it and they go and they do these clips weeping about their granddaughters and like how hard it is for them to be on Instagram. And I'm sorry that sounds cynical, but this is like not even like close to the problems that are actually surfacing on these social media platforms. Sorry, I went a little ranty there.
I'm ready. Okay, so after this, I do want to get into, speaking of talking about things that are not in one's self-interest, I'd like to talk about why Joe Biden is fucking things up right now. I will answer your big tech question, though, because you are exactly right. And this is why. I'm in my hotel room last night in D.C., and I hear this ad in the background. It's like really, it was like, we need to reform Section 230. I was like brushing my teeth, and I was like, I wonder who's running this ad.
Facebook.
Facebook is running the ad. And do you know why Facebook is running the ad?
And they've adopted Danielle and my proposal.
Really?
For the 230 reform that they are backing is basically pretty close to like verbatim what Danielle Citron and I suggested 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, I'm happy that they're stealing from you. I will tell you this, though. Politically speaking, why they're doing this is because you are right on the policy. Kate is right on the politics. They know that these assholes can't get it together to do it. They know it because the Republicans' complaints are all completely bad faith nonsense, which is evidenced by, I wrote a very funny long article in Getter that everyone should read if they want to, about how like they don't even believe their own BS on censorship. They're happy to censor when they're in charge, when they just want to censor different stuff. Okay, so the Republicans' complaints about censorship are all just performative, bad faith bullshit. The Democrats' complaints are completely split. It's like some people are like, you should censor more, and other people are, and then you have the populists that are like, break them up, and the corporate Democrats don't want that, and the populists want you to censor less because they're in the Glenn Greenwald mold. Like these guys aren't even. There might be this sort of sheen that there's an agreement over this, but these guys aren't even close to being able to. But Tim,
it's worse than that. It's worse than that from Facebook's point of view because they believe exactly what you're saying. But they also believe that if Congress could get it together and regulate, this is what I call the Philip Morris effect. There came a point where Philip Morris is like, what is the way we can prevent RJR from ever competing with us seriously? And it's like, regulation. We're the market leader. We can comply with fucking anything. But they're the ones who need to be innovative. So let's stifle, their innovation by having a regulatory environment that makes it harder. And that's exactly what Facebook is doing. The market leader always loves regulation. So it's a win-win from their point of view. They get credit for embracing regulation. They're the reasonable sounding ones because the position actually is reasonable. They're not going to actually have to live under it. And if they do, fine.
Right.
Like, that just makes Twitter, like,
Right.
it
Yeah,
makes a
whoever the
disaster
new
for
next
TikTok,
TikTok is,
but
yeah.
it's not, Facebook can engineer any compliance regime they need to.
This is my final thought on Facebook. The thing that I hate the most about Facebook from my brief time consulting from them is they are brain sucking like the smartest people in society, like who should be like solving real problems. And the problem is Section 230 does get resolved. It'll be like the top 10% of the Stanford MBA class will all do PowerPoint decks on how to fix this. And it's just like you go into these meetings and all these people are so smart and they're doing nothing. They're just like dealing with bullshit of like big company. And I do feel like the only time when I'm sympathetic to the anti-big tech is just in this creative notion that like Google, Amazon, and Facebook have sucked up all the smart people in Silicon Valley, and like these people should be using their brains for things to actually help society. Because like I'm not going to do it. I'm a median hack.
Not to like now that we've kind of put a point on the fact that it's politics all the way down, which I really do feel like really like Ben is exactly right in his policy, and I think I'm right as we like the politics out from the left and the right, and as you kind of enunciated, Tim. But like, yes, like everyone is like making the moves that politically make the most sense to them. Everyone is making hay on everybody else's bad press while the sun shines, and there's kind of this like I kind of think that the one thing that is not happening is a focus on actually fixing anything that is actually making people so miserable. And I do believe that people are so miserable. Like, I actually think that these are some really fundamentally broken platforms that are causing harms, and it's maybe not their fault. And it's maybe not like, but like, here's the other thing is like, why do we trust government for that necessarily? It's not. Like, I don't think that necessarily like people working, and I've worked in government, there's a lot of idiots in government, and maybe it's because they all went to Facebook, but this was before Facebook. So like, I don't know. Like, I just basically think that like there like are like there is a misalignment of resources, and there just needs like all of this. I guess my big thing, and I'll wrap this up, is like because I want to hear about Biden, but like my big thing is that I'm just like, if we act like no one actually wants to solve this problem, everyone just wants to grift off of it. Is that really what's happening? You're all fucking grifters. Like, you're grifters, like that are like, and I'm like, well, this is boring as hell. Like, who wants that? Okay, Genevieve.
This is why we need term limits.
It's not just term limits. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that solves anything. But like, I don't know. Like, I'm just like watching all of these people come after me. I say something completely neutral. I think it's neutral, like just descriptive in like Twitter. And 3 like white dudes out of nowhere that previously worked in big tech come after me with like their 65,000 person following. And their tagline on their Twitter bio is like, out of big tech, started some anti-big tech firm, and let me consult with you for $10,000 an hour on big tech. And I'm just like, you're just an anti-tech grifter. You're just a grifter. Like, this is just you making money on like this marginal float that will exist for the next 10 to 15 years. And then you'll be out of business because your expertise will be irrelevant. But sure, come after me. Sorry.
Do I need to get Luther off your back? Is that the problem? Do I need to call Luther?
No,
Tell him to send off the dogs.
I am very naive in all of this. And coming into like the reawakening of just how much politics and grift it is, it was like you were alone for a short period of time with your thoughts, and now it's just kind of like you're dropped into Chuck E. Cheese, and it's like there's like nothing makes any sense. Like, I just don't know. Go ahead, Tim.
I think we're good.
Me and Ben want to fight about Joe Biden. So I'm just going to pretend like you asked me a question, which was, how's Joe Biden doing? And my answer is not good. And here's the thing, and that I'm really frustrated with. And I do want to bring Genevieve in on this, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Genevieve, but I feel like I'm kind of part of the family now, so I can ask a question from time to time. You do this show every day, right? 5 days a week. You're very schooled in what is happening in geopolitics. I would like you to describe to me in 3 sentences or less what the Democrats' message is on why we should pass a reconciliation and infrastructure bill.
The clarity is lacking.
Lacking. Nobody can answer that question. It's insane. We're all the way into the year, and everybody's always like, "Well, Tim, everybody loves all this stuff. It all polls at 80+%." And it's like nobody knows what's in any of this shit. All they know is that it's expensive. All they know is that the Democrats are fighting with each other, and this is a time when I'm going to sound like this is my David Gergen moment right now on In Lieu of Fun, where I'm going to sound like a douchey CNN pundit from 1990. It's like leadership matters, but it's true. Like Joe Biden needs to go in there and say, "Shut the fuck up, everybody. We're going to do here's what I care about." Paid leave and whatever else. I actually don't even care what it is like that much because I was a Republican 2 minutes ago. Pick two things that you think are going to help people's lives: paid family leave, child care, and say and be like, this is what we're going to campaign on the midterms. Like you feel like you can't take 3 weeks or 6 weeks off, whatever, when you get pregnant, like they can in every other country. We're going to make sure you can. Your daycare is too expensive for you right now, and you can't have two people working. Like we're gonna take a bite out of that.
Speaking to Genevieve,
we're gonna take a bite out of that for you. Okay, there are two things. That's what this bill is gonna do. We're gonna solve those two problems. We're not gonna solve every problem under the sun that every progressive interest group wants. We're not gonna give $100 million to every random cause, and like that's it. Or by the way, if you want to give $100 million to every random cause, you can go ahead and do that. Just talk about the two things, right? And instead they're talking about nothing. They're just fighting with one another. Meanwhile, everybody's feeling like things are more expensive in their day-to-day lives on what they're paying for things, and they don't see any progress. And so like maybe this all will be fixed by next year. Maybe it will. But like right now, the White House is just kind of letting this all languish, and it might end up electing Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, and it's certainly hurting like Democrats right now. And I don't feel like there's anybody who's like blaring the siren, except for Representative Jayapal, who wants to spend $7 trillion Castilian dollars. Like she's the only one.
All right.
So where am I wrong, Ben?
So I actually. I'm in an awkward position because I am normally in the position of where Tim is, of saying that the left is out to lunch. And I am not, in any sort of meaningful sense, ideologically, a Democrat. Like social spending is not an issue I spend a lot of time thinking about, though I believe in a lot of it. I think you're completely out to lunch on this. And I think not only are you completely out to lunch, but you're in a Bulwark echo chamber. I'm literally sitting in the Bulwark echo chamber in which there is no dissent on this point. So you and JVL and Sarah and Bill and Charlie kind of rile each other up. And nobody says what I am about to say. The Biden administration made a strategic judgment to get two big things done this year and to take whatever political hit they had to in the meantime to get the infrastructure bill and the social spending bill done, and then to spend 2022 doing the messaging that is basically, we brought you decline, the end of the COVID pandemic, the major social spending that you like, and infrastructure, and they brought you an insurrection, and they're promising to bring you the end of democracy. That is the message that they're going to run on in 2022. And
this is bullshit.
They have to get two things done in order to do it.
But they're not even close to getting the second thing done.
Okay,
it's bullshit. They don't even know what they want. They're watering it down.
The point is, you can't evaluate this strategic judgment until, A, you see whether they can get them done, and B, you see how that messaging works in the period of time in which they're planning to do it.
I can evaluate it. Do you know why I can evaluate it? Because they obviously have no idea what they're doing. They obviously have no idea what they're doing. They don't, like right now, they can't even decide. There's a great, is he in Slate now? Jonathan Weissman? No,
Yeah.
I don't
There's
read
a great.
Slate
I think it was
anymore,
Slate. There's a great
ever since they got rid of Pesca.
There's a great article about this. I'll put it in the chat here in a minute. Where he's like, they can't decide between whether to do a lot of things like kind of okay, and then hope that it all gets re-upped by a future Congress in 2026 when it's probably going to be fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene is the Speaker of the House or whatever. They're going to hope that this stuff that expires gets re-upped.
Look at GDF.
That's their bet. Or to do a couple things really well. And they still can't even decide this amongst themselves. Like this notion that this was always part of the plan is BS.
No,
it's BS. It's not always been part of the plan.
So wait, I didn't say a period of chaos was always part of the plan. A period of chaos is what happens when you try to wrestle 50 Democrats onto the same page about something. Was a reasonably anticipatable. Delta was probably not reasonably anticipatable, though. But my point is, you can't, it is fair to say the strategic judgment was wrong. It is, and to criticize the strategic judgment. And it is fair to say maybe 6 months from now, the messaging was completely fucked up. But right now, when you're in the period in which, they are trying to get the fundamental things done on which they're going to run, is the wrong time to evaluate the messaging of the way they're running. Their campaign is going to be, we got the following things done. They want to bring you more COVID, more death. They're anti-vax, and they don't believe in democracy and insurrection. You choose. That's what they're trying to set up. And let's talk 5 or 6 months from now about whether they're in a good position to make that argument for the midterms or not.
I already said that's my final point, and Kate can stop, kind of being like, you boys are boring me with your mansplaining. But my final point on this is that I can make a judgment, and I already said that maybe in 6 months things will work out for them, luckily, but they clearly don't have a plan right now. And they bungled Afghanistan, and the COVID thing was bad luck. But now, if you just so they're probably going to end up electing Glenn Youngkin.
You won't get any disagreement with me about Afghanistan. Yeah, but that's a different matter.
But but it isn't a different matter because right now he's sitting in a place in the fall where people can say to themselves, this seems like a shit show in every level. And it's harder than you think to get people to change their priors on that. Once, I'm not talking about the Democratic base. I'm talking about, the people who voted for Biden who didn't really love him, which was a lot of people, by the way. And if a percentage of those people are just like, man, this guy isn't up for it, maybe things do turn around 6 months, and maybe they turn around, and maybe this seems like unnecessary Tim bedwetting, but it seems like a really big risk to be we're just gonna spend the entire fall of my first year just like a monkey fucking a football over everything and not actually do anything. That seems like a big risk politically.
I just want to say, monkey fucking a football is a pretty great metaphor. But we had a nice space where we had quiet thought, and then we fell into Chuck E. Cheese. It's right up there. Genevieve, go ahead.
Well, just one of the things that I keep thinking about also is that there are all these nods to and references from the Republican Party saying that reference Trump saying that if the Republicans do well in 2022, then he would probably be more inclined to run. It's always a risk that he's going to run. But how come this message alone is so far removed from the narrative just generally as a unifying thing for the Democratic Party?
Just to ask which narrative specifically, specifically,
the Republicans cannot perform well in 2022 because it will increase as the risk of him running again, which really at that point, if there's enough time and enough snowballing of the Trumpian messaging, you might have a real problem putting him up against the incumbent.
Great. I'm gonna unmute. Go ahead. Hey.
So I think the actual answer is, I think Tim is not overstating his view for dramatic effect. I am slightly overstating my view for dramatic effect. My totally honest view is you can't begin to evaluate this for about 3 months because you need an answer on Virginia. You need COVID numbers low enough that people are feeling better about the Delta situation to figure out how much of the decline in Biden's approval is really about this shit, and how much of it is actually just, we're expecting hot Joe summer, and we didn't get the face licking parties, man. I think we should talk in February about what the situation looks like, what the short-term costs of this were, how much they're able to rally behind and message around this whatever package they end up getting, and I think it's my real point is that this is a bad point in time in which to make this evaluation.
When is it ever a good point? Neat silver.
I think it is a good point in time when you can say, when the situation is a little bit less fluid.
Can I just say, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this poll here. It says, who is right on Biden 2024 fear? I don't know that we've really been talking about 2024 fear, but I noticed that 19 people say Ben and 13 people say me, so I'm below.
It's almost like I just kind of wanted to see.
I would just say, people, be very afraid. Like, whether or not I'm right about this, it is right to be afraid. The right positional place to be is afraid, because the downside, the other side, is very bad.
Oh, I agree with that.
And this is the thing that frustrates me the most about this situation. Is I look, and I think this is to Genevieve's point a little bit. Does fear of Trump, does that help Democrats, et cetera, et cetera? I hope so. But it was a pretty close election, and I think that the people who see clearly the threat, the existential threat that comes from the other side, should be acting with a little bit more urgency and care. And a little less business as usual, and I'm sensing a lot of business as usual from Nancy and Joe, and I understand that some people on the comment section want to blame Manchin and Sinema, and I think Sinema is really kind of inscrutable and crazy, but it's still, in particular, I think Manchin is like a gift from God, or else Mitch McConnell would be the Senate Majority Leader. But Sinema is crazy. But it's up to Joe and Chuck and Nancy to figure that out. And they've had 10 months. So anyway, that's I guess that's my main point. Is I'm sensing a lot of business as usual, and I would like a lot more fear, and I'd like everyone in the poll to side with me that we should be afraid, even. Of my criticism.
Let's go to audience questions, because we are running out of time here. We got 9 minutes, and if Tim keeps on this thing, I'm just going to have to throttle him here on screen.
But I actually think that there's. Okay, hold on. I actually kind of I purposely put Biden 2024 because I actually think that we're kind of tilting around this idea, which is he's doing so bad, and it has nothing to do with whether Trump is running. That is actually that was a purposeful I was trying to kind of force a point. I think that is who are we going to run if it is 2024 and it's looking like it's Trump, or it's not looking like it's Trump. We don't have anyone. So anyways, with all of that being said, Frank, the floor is yours. Please ask your question.
Yeah, I think my question has almost been answered already, because I wanted to ask Tim how pessimistic he was about the future of American democracy, which sounds not so good right now. But I'd like some specifics. What's the biggest problem? Is it the election tampering? Not tampering, you know what I mean? In the red states or other places that are going to be a problem? Is there a real concern that a state legislature, even if Biden won, say Texas, they would just throw the legislature would decide to send different electors? How likely are those kinds of things that you're are part of your doom scenario, I guess? And by the way, I also want to say cheers, and here's my eye off glass, everybody. I'll say norms, so you all have to drink to it. And thanks a lot.
Count stuff is really high. State legislatures, I think that's a really big concern. I think that local county elected officials, like Freak Show, banning MAGAs, like taking over county clerk offices is a big concern of mine. I think that just whether our democracy could survive Donald Trump losing by 7 million votes again, but winning a narrow electoral college victory, I don't, really scares me. Donald Trump obviously losing by 7 million votes and then winning an electoral college victory on the back of a Florida-ish situation in some state really scares me.
Why did we give permission? Sorry. I'm really screechy. My voice is terrible when I hear it. Sorry. Why did we give permission to Frank to entertain your doom scrolling in in real time? What the fuck? I don't want to hear this.
Okay, I'll be positive. Here's the one positive on this is I think that the voting rights stuff is really important in states, but I think that we've seen the more Republicans do voter suppression shit in these states, actually it's redounded against them. And it has motivated Stacey Abrams type activity in a lot of states. It's gotten more people registered. They're not as good at voter suppression as they think they are. So while the voter suppression stuff is not good, in general, I think that we've seen kind of a net plus out of it. Honestly, is that people have been turning out. Because awareness has grown.
I completely agree with that.
So that's the one area where I do not have doomsday.
And we
voter
have
suppression.
We have a really, really strong test case of that, and that is the 6 weeks or 5 weeks in Georgia between the two election days, and that was a state that was already controlled by Republican election apparatuses, and I don't want to say it's going to backfire to the degree that it will actually hurt Republican candidates as a general matter, but the one clean test that we have of it did not result in what was intended, and I do think that is a striking thing that a lot of it is emotionally satisfying for a lot of Republican base MAGA voters and for politicians to pander to this sense that if we can just, control the voting apparatus. But this stuff is really, you all know this is really directed at black people. And black people hear it. And it plays to, it's like, It really affects voting behavior of the targeted communities. And I don't think there's good political science on the actual, net impact of it. There have been some attempts to study it. I don't think that they're all that comprehensive. It's a super hard thing to study because you have no controls. But it is not clear to me that you end up discouraging more marginal voters who would like to vote, but it's just difficult, and you've made it a little bit more difficult so that they actually give up than you do energize younger Black and Latino voters who are really pissed off that you're trying to do it in the first place.
Particularly in presidential races,
Yes.
is my last comment. This could, I don't want to completely negate that it's not possible, because in off-year elections and stuff, I think it could have an impact.
It could make a difference in Virginia.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to leave it there. Tim? I just muted. What? Hold on. What did I say?
We're leaving it there? I was just getting riled up.
Were you?
But you have to be at the Bombay Club in half an hour, dude.
I do.
That's what
I have a very important swampy meeting at 6:30. It's very swampy.
The Bombay Club is where Monica Lewinsky had her single greatest moment. I just want to say Monica Lewinsky is back in the news. If you look in the history, the annals of the New York Times archive, you will find a Maureen Dowd column that I think is Monica's greatest moment. And it begins with Maureen Dowd. Maureen Dowd thinks she's being witty in this column, and she is she's describing being so totally pwned that it is awesome. She talks about being in the Bombay Club with her friend Michael Duffy, who's a Time columnist, and seeing Monica across the room, sitting with her then lawyer, Bill Ginsburg. The older of you will remember him, the medical malpractice attorney who went on 5 network talk shows at the same time. Monica sees Maureen Dowd from across the room. This is in Maureen Dowd's description, not in Monica's description. Sees Maureen Dowd from across the room, goes over to the pianist, asks the pianist to play Send in the Clowns, and then goes over to Maureen Dowd and says, "Why do you write such mean things about me?" And Maureen Dowd, the whole column, I'm not making this up, the whole column is Maureen Dowd listing what I should have said was blank, and I could have said blank, and I could have said blank, but I didn't say any of those things. And she basically flummoxed her completely and walked away triumphantly. And Maureen Dowd wrote a snotty column about it, describing this. It is the ultimate description of being pwned by the 24-year-old intern who you've been mean to.
Looks like I get one more question. A bonus question.
Yes. Hi, Tim. So I want to engage you in your LSU group. Who would you hire as the next LSU head coach?
Question that is in line with my interests. If I could, I'm very interested in Lincoln Riley, if we can steal from Oklahoma. I'm intrigued by the notion of Mike Tomlin, who might want to leave the Steelers. I'm curious, but not ready to go there for Joe Brady, who I don't think wants to recruit and was our offensive coordinator. And if those pipe dreams don't come true, I will be very happy to steal James Franklin from Penn State and make him the first black coach in the SEC. I think we'll recruit everyone, and he's a very responsible, smart man. And if there are any Penn State fans here, I'm very sorry, but we would give him his first national championship. Thank you for that question. And if anyone else wants to kind of just spend a lot of time talking to me, texting me thoughts about the LSU coaching search is something that I will respond to, or DMing me about them. If you DM me about Donald Trump, I may or may not respond depending on my mood. But if you DM me about the LSU coaching search, we can build a deep relationship. Thank you.
We will be back tomorrow, but I won't, because I am off tomorrow because I am teaching Pete Strzok's class with Shane Harris and then having dinner with Pete and Shane. So, but we collectively will be back tomorrow. Tim Miller, you're a great American, even if you're totally wrong. And I'm being throttled. We're going to go for a walk, end up at the Bombay Club, where I'm not going to go in because you can't go in the Bombay Club with dog shirts. These are discriminatory laws that remain in effect. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be 22 hours and 58 minutes from now. And until then, Kate, who looks really perplexed and annoyed.
I'm not perplexed and annoyed. I think we have to figure out whether your shirt is a basset hound or a beagle. But until then, we don't have fun anymore. But we do have the poodle shirt coming in the mail. So that is where I'll leave it. Have a good night.